My name is Tom Williams, and I was one of the judges for the Colour Maximite 1 and 2 Basic Programming Challenge in 2021. In this video, I showcase in no particular order all the entries to the challenge before counting down the 3 winners. Please note that any opinions that I express are my own and are not necessarily representative of the views of the other judges. The rules for the challenge and links to the source for all the entries is provided in the description below. In summary, the rules required each entry to be a single basic file that would fit in one editor page of 48 lines, each of 100 characters. As you will see, this led to some impressive entries, but with a couple of exceptions, not to readable code. First up, we have Chemi Chaos Redux, an entry by Lisby based on a program originally written by Vegapete. This is an interesting logic game where the object is to move the chemical balls between the test tubes such that all the balls of the same colour end up in the same test tube. At no time is the player allowed to place one ball on top of a ball of a different colour. This game was a fun challenge, though I initially struggled with the controls. I think using the cursor keys might have been more intuitive. A more significant issue is that it doesn't automatically recognise when you have completed a level. You have to manually press X. As source code goes, this is actually one of the clearer programs, despite the lack of whitespace or comments. I note that there is still plenty of space left that might have been used to squeeze in some sound effects and music, while still keeping to the challenge's restrictions. For our second entry, we have Iceberg by Real Bob LA. My apologies if I've pronounced his handle incorrectly. What first excited me about this entry is that the author provided this mock cassette cover that was evocative of the games I would see and buy in the late 1980s. The game itself is a basic affair, the object being to pilot the boat along an ever-narrowing, scrolling river without hitting the ice cliffs on either side. Simple but effective and reminiscent of games you might expect on the very early 8-bit machines or in type-in magazines. Much like the previous entry, the source code is generally readable, though lacking in indentation and comments. As later entries will show, there is plenty of space left for embellishment. Our third entry is 10-line Soccerban with Sprites by Volhout, so called because the game engine and original posted code only takes up an impressive 10 lines of code, and the remainder of the permitted space is taken up by the game and sprite data. Equally impressive is that this entry was written for the original Colour Maximite, though with help from the community on the back shed, Volhout also provided the judges with a Colour Maximite 2 version. The program is a logic puzzle game in which the player pushes crates around a warehouse, trying to get them in the correct storage location. Apparently, this is a popular genre of game that had until now completely escaped me. My success rate was not impressive. The game was fun if frustrating. It would be much improved by some manner of success animation and sound effects or music. The source code takes up a single page of 38 lines of 80 characters, as allowed by the original Color Maximite editor, and it is very dense. As mentioned before, the game engine only takes up 10 lines, with the remainder being the data for the levels, the code to extract the sprites, and finally the sprite data itself. Next up is a puzzle game by Jiri, this time based on the classic Tower of Hanoi puzzle, where the object is to move all the discs from Tower 1 to Tower 3 without ever placing a larger disc on top of a smaller. This was an exceptionally complete entry that somehow fitted in both an attract screen and in-game music. The fact that it did not place amongst the 3 winners is just an indication of how high the standard of entries was. The only thing I can say constructively about the source code is that it is dense. However, Jiri did also provide an indented and commented expanded version that is available via the links in the description. Our 5th entry was also the only non-game and is by Mixtel90. For the uninitiated, this program explains and explores the mysteries of the coloured bands on resistors. Only being a very novice electronics hobbyist myself, there is not much I can say about this program, though it is both informative and competent. I think it would have been nice if there was an option to colour the resistor body in the common beige or blue, and perhaps there could have been a quiz mode where the player is expected to identify resistor values against the clock, though in reality I myself struggle to distinguish between the colours on the blue metal oxide resistors. Wonder of wonders, the source code has both a little indenting and some comments, and scored points in the challenge for both. Next in our showcase is the work of Vegipete, who is a force of nature when it comes to writing programs for the Color Maximite 2. The challenge was no exception, and not only did he contribute ideas, optimizations, and bug fixes for some of the other entries, he even found time to write a trilogy of games himself. The rules only allowed each entrant a single program, and after some sustained prodding, he eventually submitted the final part of his trilogy to the judges. However, before we get to that, I want to showcase the first 2 parts, both of which were exceptional achievements in their own right. Part 1 of the trilogy is In Defense of the Green Hills of Earth, a very competent Space Invaders clone that even includes the bonus Flying Saucer. About the only thing missing for the full nostalgic experience are the original's unmistakable sound effects. I also don't recall the original Last Few Aliens generating such an overwhelming rain of death rays, but that may just be me being a sore loser.
Game over.
The source code is dense, though I liked the smattering of amusing comments. Fortunately, VeggiePete also provided indented and commented expanded versions of all 3 parts of the trilogy, which are available via the links in the description. The second part of VeggiePete's trilogy is In Renewed Defense of the Green Hills, which continues the retro game theme by being a Missile Command clone. I've always been a big fan of Missile Command, and this version was no exception, especially once I worked out I needed to use all 3 buttons of the mouse in order to control the 3 missile silos. As before, density is the source code's chief achievement. The third and final part of VeggiePete's trilogy, Escape to the Green Hills, also coincidentally placed a well-deserved 3rd in the challenge. The object of this game is to navigate the alien invaders' multi-level maze-like command center to find and activate its self-destruct whilst collecting a smattering of useful objects and avoiding the alien guards. I found this game reminiscent of both 3D Monster Maze on the ZX81 and Transylvanian Tower on the ZX Spectrum. Navigating some of the deeper levels of the maze can certainly be as frustrating as the latter was. Once more, the extremely dense source code helps explain how VeggiePete was able to do so much with so little. The judges gave second place to Gravity Assist, a novel puzzle game by Tim D. In this game, the object is to select the correct angle for a spaceship to fire its thrusters in order for it to navigate the gravity wells of the various planets and safely reach the space station. The game is well polished and both interesting and frustrating in equal measure. I've personally never seen anything like it, and if it is an original concept, then I suggest Tim creates a mobile phone version forthwith and attempts to cash in. Despite the dense code, the smattering of white space and helpful comments helped this program to its well-deserved second place. And finally to our winner, Hope Robot by Mauro Savia. Mauro is one of the most accomplished developers on the Color Maximite 2, having produced clones of both Wolfenstein 3D and Gauntlet, as well as an impressive demo scene style program. His entry for the challenge was an arcade game, the premise of which, appropriate given that this has been the year of COVID-19, is that you are a nanobot navigating the bloodstream of patients eradicating a virus plague. What this boils down to is a highly polished shoot-'em-up with simple but effective graphics, sound and gameplay. I think the source code is the densest of all the entries, with maybe 30 unused characters. Very impressive, even if it makes the eyes bleed. I honestly made every effort to find fault with Mauro's entry, but I'm not sure what more could be achieved in the available space, and he is a worthy winner. If we repeat this challenge in future years, then I suspect we will need to invite him to act as a judge so as to increase everybody else's chances. And that is it for this year's challenge. I'd like to thank our worthy winners, all the brave contestants who exposed their code to the world, and my fellow judges, including Mick Gullifson, who provided the prizes, Bill McKinley, who stepped in at the last minute to help, and Nimue Jenkins, whose idea this was originally. Finally, a big thank you to Jeff Graham, Peter Mather, and the others involved in the creation of this wonderful toy called the Color Maximite 2. Hopefully, we will do this all again in 12 months' time. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and if you have any comments, good or bad, then please leave them in the comments below.